All right, we're picking up with number 6 on the lesson 4 through 6 quiz. I know the last video cut off the end of number 5, but here's the expression for number 5 separated into two different fractions, and either one of these answers is acceptable for your final answer on number 5. On number 6, we have the equation x squared minus 8x equals 33, and we are told to find the exact solution of the following quadratic equation by using the quadratic formula. So we need to solve using the quadratic formula. First thing we're going to do is write down our a, b, and c. Notice that c has to come over to the left side, so c is negative 33. Then we're just going to come up here and plug our numbers into our expression in the quadratic formula. So plugging in our values, we have 8 plus or minus. So we've got our expression here. 8 is opposite of b, negative b, would be positive 8 plus or minus the square root. Remember, when you plug in b squared, make sure you put it in parentheses. Minus 4 times a is 1 times c is negative 33 divided by 2a. And when we simplify that, negative 8 squared, that's 64. And negative 4 times negative 33, that's going to be a positive number. We would have the number, let's put it right here, 64 plus 132. 2 times 1, obviously that is just the number 2. And so that simplifies down into this expression. Insert, there we go. Oops, too many times. Okay, 64 plus 132 is 196. Get that equal sign in here. And the square root of 196 is 14. Forgot the equal sign again. And finally, 8 plus 14 is 22. 22 divided by 2 is 11. 8 minus 14 is negative 6. And negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. So your two answers, x equals 11 and negative 3. And so those are your two answers for number 6. Our next question, number 7, said the height of a pebble dropped from a cliff 604 feet high is described by the formula h of t equals 604 minus 16 t squared. How long will the pebble take to reach a height of 348 feet? And one of the key things for this problem is recognizing h of t, it just means the height of the pebble at some particular time is this equation. So if they give you a height of 348, that just replaces the height of the pebble at a certain time. All this is it's going to become 348 equals 604 minus 16t squared. It's going to look just like this. Notice that both of these numbers, 348 and 604, don't have a variable next to them. They're both c values in that sense. So they are like terms which you just need to combine. So the first thing that I would do here is I would take the 604 to the left side of the equation. I would subtract it from each side. And when you subtract it, you're going to get negative 256. And the negative 16t squared is still on the right side. Next, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 16. And when I do that, negative 256 divided by negative 16 is just 16. And now I have t squared is 16. I'm going to square root both sides. And hopefully from here you can see that t is going to be plus or minus the square root of 16, which is just 4. And if you remember from what we talked about in class, you can't have negative time ever. Let's just keep plugging it up here. Okay, so t is plus or minus 4. You can't have negative time. Negative time doesn't exist. So the only answer that makes sense is the positive 4. Whenever you have a word problem, you need to answer with a sentence. How long would the pebble take to reach a height of 348 feet? The pebble will reach a height, oops, can't spell, of 348 feet after 4 seconds. Done. Number 8, the strength of an electromagnetic field is measured as 5 plus 3J amperes per meter. Don't worry about what that means. It's just a measurement of electromagneticity. The strength of another electromagnetic field is 2 minus J amperes per meter. Find the total strengths of the two fields. Whenever you see this word total, it is code that you need to add the two things together. So simply, 5 and 2 are like terms. 5 plus 2 is 7. 3J and negative J are like terms. 3J minus J is 2J. Here's your answer, 7 plus 2J. And then if you want, you can say amperes per meter. Done. It's really, really easy. Number 9. At a baseball training camp, a computer system plots the paths of balls hit during sessions at the batting cage and generates equations for those paths. The path of a ball hit by David is described by the equation h of t. The height at any point in time is 48 plus 4t minus 4t squared. Find how long it would take the ball to hit the ground in an open field. When the ball hits the ground, the height of the ball is 0. It's on the ground. So all that's going to say is 0 equals 48 plus 4t minus 4t squared. You're just replacing h of t with 0 because the height is 0 when it hits the ground. Then you need to come out here and find your a, b, and c. Notice how in this problem they don't tell you which method to use. They don't tell you whether you could graph it or you could factor it, or you could use completing the square, or you could use the quadratic formula. It doesn't tell you a method to do, so you can use whatever method you like. The first thing I notice from this equation is that each of these coefficients is divisible by 4. They're all factors of 4. So I'm just going to divide out that 4 each time. 48 divided by 4 is 12, and all the other 4's, if you divide them by 4, they're just 1. So this equation, you can simplify it to just this. So if you want to use the quadratic formula, you would write down a is always the number in front of the squared variable. That's -1. A lot of you guys flipped the order of this and moved t squared over here and moved the 12 over here, but you left the negative sign over here. So you ended up writing, let me do this. This is wrong, but a lot of people did this on their paper. A lot of people take the t squared and the 12 and they just flip them, but they didn't bring the sign of the t squared. So this right here, that's wrong. Don't do that. Here's what you should have done. That's right. The negative up here has to come with the term when you move it to the front. A is -1. B is 1. C is 12. You can take those numbers and throw them in the quadratic formula. So you can use the quadratic formula for this, but what I would prefer to do is I would just want to factor this, because I like factoring, and I think factoring is much easier. So if we look at this equation, everything we've done when the a value, it's always been positive when we factor. So if I take the -1 out of here, and just divide every term by -1, because 0 divided by -1 is still 0, I'm just going to end up with the following expression. T squared minus t minus 12 equals 0. And so from here, I see a times c is -12 and b is -1. So I need two numbers that multiply to be -12 and add to be -1. And I know that those two numbers are -4 and +3. So t minus 4 times t plus 3 equals 0. And that means that t equals 4. There's the bell in the background. So t equals 4 and t equals -3 when you solve those. Obviously, you can't have a negative time value that anything can happen in. So t equals 4 is the only answer we care about. It says find how long the ball would take to hit the ground in an open field. The ball would take 4 seconds to hit the ground in an open field. And that is the end of question 9 and the end of the quiz.